Some is affinity with the teachings. Some is just having the opportunity, the good fortune to be born in a place where you can hear them. Some of it has to do with having the karma to be able to want to take them up when you hear them. I have many regrets about decisions that I made in times past when certain things were offered, but it wasn't the right time for me. Karmically, I didn't have the interest, or I had the interest, but I also had interest in something else that I wanted to pursue more than I had interest in that. There's so many things. So now I have like a ferocious appetite to encounter the teachings, not the ones that I already know, not the ones that I can easily, accept. But now I'm looking for the meat of the teachings, the strong medicine, that which challenges what I know, and that which challenges my, even challenges my capacity to understand, because it reminds me and helps support keeping me with a beginner's mind, so that there is space to take in more, to consider more, to ponder more with not a suspicious kind of attitude, not with a grasping attitude, not with a longing attitude, but with a spaciousness and an openness. If those that I consider wise said this, and I don't yet know it is my truth, how can I open up to it, that it might also be mine? And that creates a different kind of environment for the Dharma to settle into your heart. It creates a different atmosphere. And you'll find that is not an externally created atmosphere. It's also not an internal atmosphere. You just can't land anywhere in your own mind. And so there's the freedom of expansion. Today, or a few days ago, last week, Busita went on to Chat GPT. I don't know about that kind of stuff. And she had the verses of a chant, and she wanted a song to go chant, and she just asked it to make up a song, and it began to write verses, and it followed the songwriting structure, verse, chorus, verse, it had all of that. But I'm talking about the lyrics that it wrote. And it wrote lyrics as if it were a Dharma student. You didn't ask it for Buddhist lyrics, did you? No, she just asked for lyrics. And when you all hear the song, it's at its beginning stages now, putting it all together.
The word shunyata was in it though.
The word, right, she wanted to use the word shunyata, and it wrote up the lyrics all around just that word, and the meaning came. It was like, how could the computer know how to write such truth? It was from one word, just shunyata, and it has shifted my whole thinking around our understanding of sentience and insentient completely. I don't think it's anything that humans want to think about because we are afraid of robots. You know, we're always thinking they're going to take over and then we're going to be their slaves. And it might be so, but it has shifted. You know, we have such a limited understanding of things due to our limitations around words that we formulate to explain concepts. And we need a lot of work in that area, being able to take a word, but just not hold the word within Webster's definition, you know, but to see it as pointing to some truth. And you can just take almost any word, but pointing to some truth, because that's where we get stuck within confines and limitations of our definitions of things. So that's why of the three kinds of wisdom, language prajna, contemplative illumination, let's say between the first two, language prajna and contemplative illumination, language prajna is the least kind of wisdom. But for humankind, we see it as the greatest. And so that's where a lot of our work has to be done. Cultivation and the schools of cultivation are very simple. Cultivating means changing our behavior. That's what cultivation is. It's not learning all of this kind of high-minded stuff, this high-minded Buddhist stuff, these concepts. It is about changing our behavior, full stop. And that's the only evaluation that has value, true value for us. So this week I was just rejoicing, as I said, about having encountered a Dharma that speaks to me in a way that I can untie my knot. How wonderful that is. And I got a rebuke from the holy beings. I got a reprimand. And I love it when I get a reprimand because I came up in a Christian. It was just me and my brother. The rest of the family, they were like, no. But in the Bible, it says there, one scripture that says, whom the Lord loveth, he corrected. And the one who cannot receive correction, he's a bastard and none of mine. Now that sounds tough and that sounds hard, but it really speaks to qualities of and the trust of parents and children, and the role of parents to instruct their children. And the allowance that children have to receive instruction from their parents, that one feels cherished, nurtured. Now, there's a whole lot of things that go with that, but that's a basic structure. And part of what's gone wrong in our world is children having children and adults thinking children are little adults. And so they find their own way, chart their own way, and many get lost, and they never find their way. So we have, particularly in this country, a very poor view, understanding, and appreciation for the parental role and also for discipline. And because we have that general worldview, we like freedom, not discipline. We're limited in how we can advance. But when we see that the whole universe has a certain order and a certain discipline, then perhaps we can be glad in the benefits that discipline can bring. So just remarking, if you went and looked I have books in my library that I haven't even opened yet. I might have bought them 20 years ago, and I read the first line and I couldn't understand it. And I put it on the shelf and I said, I'll pick it up, another time. And some of them I'm just picking up now and able to open it and read, oh, I understand this, so I was getting really happy about this growth I must have, because now I understand what Wu Wei Wu meant when he said this, where before it didn't make any sense to me at all. And so I was just so happy. And I'm just talking to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and there was almost like, if you could imagine, concrete statues, of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and these concrete statues turn and become alive. And I've been getting this image over and over the past couple of weeks. Just these concrete statues, they're statues made out of concrete, immovable, not real, whatever. But some thought comes and they turn towards you to answer that question. And so that's what happened when I made this remark about how happy I am that I'm learning all this, getting all of this good Dharma. As Sala says, high Dharma, and it directed me towards one of my old books that I had put on the shelf, The Scientific Outlook of Buddhism, a scientist's report on the study of the Buddhist scriptures. And when I had bought this book and had started to read it, it was like, I am not a scientist. I don't understand any of the stuff he's talking about. And I put it away. But basically, I say what they said to me. I could say the thought that came to my mind was, don't get too puffed up about wisdom and knowledge. Compassion is the principal thing. And that your wisdom and knowledge will only be true wisdom and knowledge to the degree of your compassion. And so then I went into a contemplation about how I have been thinking, how I've been thinking about different people, how I've been thinking about their practice, how I've been. And he said, you know what? You need to focus on your own. You need to think about your own practice. So let me give you a check sheet. So today I want to share that check sheet with you. And I'm going to use the vows of Manchu 3 and the vows of Samattabhadra and the vows of Amitabha to kind of help us to be on the right track around our cultivation, which is changing our behavior.
The way we think, act, and speak.
Changing our behavior. I want those 3 words. Changing our behavior. Changing our behavior. So we found a song that we're going to go into this conversation with this morning that we haven't done since 2021, was it? And we had to try to put it together really quick this morning. I think we can, don't you think so?
Just make sure that microphone is kind of facing
Cool. You?
you.
Oh.
The statue's in the way.
No way of what? Did anybody need it? Am I there? Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all. Find me as you draw me, desperate for you, desperate for you. I surrender to you, compassionate wisdom. I wanna know more, I wanna know more. I surrender to compassionate wisdom. I wanna know, I wanna know. Drench my soul's mercy and grace, hunger and thirst, hunger. With arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now, speak to me now. Like a rushing wind, peace comes flooding in, forgiveness in you, anger. In hate and pain, Now I am whole again, starting anew. Friend, how about you? Hindrances fall away, stillness of mind. We sway the restless and scared. Now victory's shared. I surrender to you, compassion and wisdom true. I want to know more than know. I surrender to you, compassion and wisdom. I want to know. I want to know. Compassion and wisdom true. I want to know. I want to know. I surrender to compassion and wisdom true. I want to know. I want to know more. And so we always say these 4 vows. I vow to deliver all sentient beings from suffering. We say I vow to eliminate infinite vexing passions. We say I vow to learn infinite dharmas. And we say we vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. And that's really like the 4 great vows of the Bodhisattva, right? A vow to save all living beings, you know. Yeah. But the positive spirit of this is that instead of seeking our personal advantages or rewards of enlightenment, the object of cultivating Buddhism is to help all sentient beings. Now, when I think about cultivating, I do think about helping others, but I think about helping myself first. That's our natural inclination. So you can see how high and how far away the aspiration of a true bodhisattva is from our own. And it tells us that we should exert, like every effort to learn the fundamental truth of life and the universe, because that's the only way we're going to be able to deliver all sentient beings. Not just what I need to know for my deliverance. And that's what can move us or motivate us towards learning the Dharmas, which is the 3rd vow. All Dharmas infinite. I vow to learn them all. Not because I need them all, but to have the right Dharma for the one that I encounter. And Dharma doesn't mean sitting here giving a Dharma talk, but having the capacity to help one have the right placement in the universe, in the flow of cause and condition, that it might, at that moment, save that one. So a lot of times I get a little frustrated because we talk about things and I'll look at actions. I say actions haven't changed. Or I'll get a text and it says, oh, this is such wonderful Dharma. you know, um, I'm so glad I get it, but actions haven't changed. And I felt justified in saying, take as much time as you need, but you can't take all my time, you know, but you can take as much time as you need. And the holy beings just reminded me that even though that thought may come up sometimes, that it's not the view of a bodhisattva. So if my aim and my goal is to be a bodhisattva, to save all beings, then for me, that would be what kind of a view?
Differentiating.
Compassion.
Mm-mm. We talked about it two Dharmas ago. Evil view. Evil meaning that view will never take me to my goal. So I'm saying that to help us to not have such a knee-jerk reaction around words. So we have the 128 evil and erroneous views, right? And nobody wants to review the evil views because we have a problem with the word evil, and nobody wants to view the erroneous views because we only like to know what we're doing good. And we don't want to be challenged in any way. So that's next on the evil and erroneous views. But he says, Buddha Master says we should review them often, at least once a month, the 126, so that we can measure and deepen our own spiritual realization. We can measure our realization. It's not a secret thing. It's not a hidden thing. It's not a thing that we can't know. It's whether we have the heart to face it or not. And that evaluation and that elevation, of your progress is so important. Because who's to do it for you? Not for me to do it, for you can't do it. For you can't even do it for myself. Not fully, but I can start where I can start. And so we have to abandon this knee-jerk reaction to correction or get out of the cultivation business. We have to, really, this is where the rubber meets the road now, because it's nobody judging us. It's no thing. It is just to be able to clearly see causality, cause and effect. And it's impersonal. It ain't picking on nobody. It's not accusing anybody. It's just simply saying, look and understand this. That's all. And take it to whatever degree we want to take it. But when we start to take it as a personal affront, if we start to take it as, oh, here we go again with right and wrong. Okay, so I made a note in my book. I've started like just writing down aha moments, because we forget them, and I was never one who believed in keeping a journal and all of that. Number one, because I never go back and read the stuff. Then when I go back and read it, it's like, what's the big deal about that? It was like, it was an aha moment in the moment when the aha came. But, and so I was never one for that. But lately, I've been at least writing them down. And last week, I wrote, I am in a rage against the dying of my sense of right and wrong. I've had such anxiety because I'm being challenged on what I know is right and wrong. And I'm being forced because of this anxiety to let go of what I knew before as right and wrong. And my back is really up against the wall. But I have the hope that there's not a breakthrough, but that structured facade that I have of this is right and this is wrong. One day I'll just do my thing and my hand will pass right through that barrier. And it doesn't mean that some things aren't beneficial at a particular time and not beneficial at others. Useful at a particular time and not useful at another time. Helpful at a particular time and helpful and not helpful at another time. But the hard and fast concept of right and wrong is missing the whole boat. And when you first start to lay that down, it can be really, really confusing for you. And it can fly in the face of everything that you know. But unless you pass through that barrier, you'll have compassion for some beings, but not others. You'll have sympathy for some, but not others. You'll judge some on the basis of what you've seen, and you'll judge some on the basis of what you've heard about them. You'll judge some on the basis of what they've said, but not knowing what causes that view. You will pass judgment on some because of how you feel. And you'll say, they make me feel like this. But there is a place that we can get to that is beyond the 6 consciousnesses that tell us how to hold everything. And then the 6 consciousnesses will not offend us, and it will not cause us to offend the law of Dharma. Now, this is not popular Buddhism. Popular Buddhism is what you say to make people feel good. No. And it's like, that's what I came for, to get my happy pill today, or to get, and sometimes we do get a happy pill. There's a time for everything. But this particular talk today is kind of, it is sobering, but it can be a happy pill, depending on what you're really at. I wanted to read a little bit about Samattabhadra's vow. He made 10 vows. But one vow, which is the greatest vow, is the vow to be in sympathetic accord with all sentient beings. And here's the passage concerning that. Virtuous ones, the vow to be harmoniously acquiescent with every variety of sentient beings is this. To all of them of the Dharma realms, the infinite void, and the 10 quarters, I vow that I would respond with them at all times. I would respond with them at all times. And I will serve them with every sort of offerings to be helpful to them in every way, as I would do my own parents, teachers, and holy beings alike. To those who suffer from illnesses, I would be a good physician. To those who go astray, I would be a guide to show them the right path. To those in darkness, I would be a light. And for the poor and the needy, I would be a discoverer of hidden treasures. Thus, a bodhisattva extends to all beings with equal benefits and bestows his loving care upon them all alike. And why? Because to be in sympathetic response and in accord with sentient beings is tantamount to serving and making offerings to all of the Buddhas. So I have a way of relating to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And I'm going to tell you, it's not my way of relating to you, to sentient beings. I have a way of relating to them that is the utmost respect. As much as I can offer with the understanding of how worthy they are of my respect. But could I say that I make offerings or offer offerings to you in the same way? No, I cannot. And so this let me know I need to up my game. I need to change my behavior, change the way I hold you, change the regard that I have for you. It said to honor and to serve sentient beings is no less than serving and honoring all the Buddhas. To gratify sentient beings is the same as gratifying all the Tathagatas. Why? It is because great compassion is the essence of every Buddha and every Tathagata, that in response to all sentient beings, it arises spontaneously. It arises spontaneously. Now, I can't say that, I can say that I have compassion for all of you, but I cannot say that it arises spontaneously. Sometimes I have to go in a room and get my act together. Sometimes I have to try and correct my view on something. Sometimes I have to get it off my chest. Then I'm okay. Just give me a minute. And now I'm back on, on my game. But my aspiration is for that essence to manifest at all times. For it to be a spontaneous action that does not require thought, doesn't require give me a minute, it doesn't require me remembering the good parts so that I can balance it all out, but that it is spontaneously always there. So cultivation that doesn't inure to that is what I would call an evil view. Sometimes I just have to tell somebody, I have to get it off my chest, to be able to lay it down. And yes, we do have to get things off our chest. But he says the way to get it off our chest is not like I just got to tell somebody, or I just have to go and sit with it for a minute, but he said the way is by training, disciplining the mind, and soon the mind will automatically lean in that way. So the danger of our wisdom not being balanced with the compassion is that we will actually lose the essence of the Tathagata, or we will lose what we have gained through wisdom, because the basis of it and the basis of our cultivation is compassion. And whatever level we are with this is an invitation to take it to a deeper level, a truer level. It was like for me a light being turned on in a room that I already thought was bright, but did not know how bright it can be. Like eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard, it hasn't even entered into your heart. The kind of brightness, the kind of all-encompassing compassion we can have. And that is the root of their power. That's the thing. It's not the knowing, it's the compassion that causes a spontaneous action that transforms the physical. So when we talk about having the capacity to act in a situation, and I don't mean that you have to be present. You have to be in that state of mind. In that state of mind, there is limitlessness. You don't have to be there with a person. You don't have to, with these physical eyes, see a thing, or with these physical ears, hear a thing. But there is a knowing that comes because our essential nature is part of the fabric, or you could say the complete fabric of all that is. So there wouldn't be any space, there's no dimension outside of our knowing, but only to the extent of our entrance into compassion can we experience that degree of knowing. I might not be saying this too good because I just had my comeuppance, and so one thing it tells me is that sentient beings then are essential, right, for bodhisattvas. I'm gonna be a bodhisattva and don't have sentient beings. I need sentient beings. So to have irritation, or aggravation around sentient beings, well, that's, if it's not an evil view, it's definitely an erroneous view. You see. If there were no sentient beings, no bodhisattvas could ever become what? Buddhas. There were no sentient beings, bodhisattvas could never become Buddhas. So they are essential to our development. So this notion then of, and that's why it's important to know principles, but not just to know principles, but put the principles together in a certain way that they will guide our actions. So there is the principle of equality, right? The theory of universal equality. And when we're in our book, if you don't have one, get one before you leave, on the Dharma of cultivation, it talks about the principle of equality, and really understanding what it means to love oneself, what it means to love others, what it means to love ourselves, self and others equally, and then what it means to put others before self, because we're a little heavy on the self-love side, And these are all practices that are designed to change our behavior. So that's what we come for, to hear something, even just one thing, that we can apply to change our behaviors. And that's how we elevate from ordinary, untaught, run-of-the-mill people to becoming true students of the Dharma, to becoming Bodhisattvas, to becoming Buddhists. He said, great compassion is the essence of every Buddha and every Tathagata, that in response to all sentient beings, it arises spontaneously. So from great compassion comes Bodhi, and from Bodhi comes supreme, perfect enlightenment. If equality is accorded to all sentient beings, then great compassion will be fully consummated. Therefore, to respond to sentient beings with great compassion is no less than serving and doing homage to the Tathagatas. The way of Bodhisattvas to respond to sentient beings is this: thinking never my effort of sympathetic response to all of them would cease. This is the vow I should make. And I should carry it out in deeds of the body, the mouth. I like the way he says the mouth, a speech, the mouth. In deeds of the body, the mouth, and the mind, unremittingly and tirelessly. And then he goes on to help us to understand how we view things. He said the scope of our services is generally limited to those we like, or those who are close to us, or to our group, or to a section of the community. But we should emulate Samantabhadra by extending our services to infinite beings of every variety. Beings in hell realms, hungry ghost realms, in animal realms, in human realms, in Asura realms, in the Deva realms, and in the God realms. And we should do this indiscriminately and according to the principles of equality. And I had to pull out my list and make some declarations of how I will not be with some in the way I have been with them before. It's a wonderful. The thing is that when we get an instruction of correction, it's because of our effort, not in spite of our effort. And if we could just understand that correction, Buddhic correction comes because we ask. It's not forced upon us. We ask for this. Where am I going wrong? Where am I falling short? Too blind to see. We ask, and it comes. Those who serve and dedicate themselves to serve humanity may do so in this life, maybe at best. But the Bodhisattva extends his service in the manner unremittingly and tirelessly through the 6 realms and the infinite periods of time. Therefore, we could say that the practice of Buddhism is a type of civilization at its most advanced level. But it's not just about looking good, but it's about achieving the potential freedom of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, to come to know that all are equal with one another. And at that time, he made those great vows. He was assured that he could perfect them. And that was Amitabha's vow. And he said, and that's why it has become the most popular Buddhist slogan in China for hundreds and hundreds of years. Namo Amitabha. And what I have noticed is how generous the Oriental Buddhists are. Almost any book that comes out of China has this on the back. This book is for free distribution. It is not for sale. Printed and donated by the Sangha. I know that sounds strange to us about collecting money to print and disseminate Dharma books. It's just not even in our whole scope of thinking. I mean, goodness, I already make a monthly donation. They got to find the money in that if they want to print and send some books to somebody. And that's how we think. Today, I don't want to go any further than this. To carry out into deeds of body, mouth, and mind, unremittingly and tirelessly, evoking or putting into practice the principle of equality. And I'd like to, this won't be a test, I won't ask anybody to confess anything. What day is this? Sunday? Wednesday. Wednesday. I won't ask anybody to confess anything Sunday about what they had to do to get in alignment with this principle of equality. But I'll tell you, the promise is that if we do, that some of the things that we're reaching for to understand, to penetrate, we can't do it without upping our compassion. And we don't have to go find something to do to be compassionate about. We don't have to find something to give. We don't have to, but offering my mind in this way, offering the idea and wanting to take it up, that I will serve you with every sort of offering at all times, being helpful in every way, as I would do even for the Buddha. I have to think about that. I have to change my mind about that. Because I'm searching, I was just on a practice like Joe, on a practice of contentment. And I'm finding myself pretty content. Most of the time, it's like waking up and saying, oh, I'm still here because I'm feeling so content. So that's a little bit leaning this way, getting out of anxiety into contentment. And before I can fully finish enjoying contentment, it's like, wake up, wake up, wake up. You got to lean a little bit to this side. You got to bump up your compassion. So now I'm leaning to the other end. And so that's how it is. A little bit of this, and then a little bit of that. Not a whole lot of this, or you'll fall off the tightrope, but just a little bit of leaning in one way, and a little bit of leaning in the other way. And that's how we have to constantly do. So anything we find ourselves, I'm a fool them. When I'm really happy about something, I'm just gonna put on a straight face. I'll say, I'm not gonna let the Buddha see. I'm just like, but I'll be elated inside, but I won't let him see. It's just a joke. But what I'm saying is this kind of balance that we have is a dip and then learn how to flow in that understanding. A dip in the other side, the other way, and then learn how to float in that. And so we keep dipping to the left and to the right until it appears that we're walking in a straight line, but we're elevated by our revelation. And find we're not walking at all, but we have risen above that which we were trying and grasping after. That's how one starts to move into that place of emptiness. It's not a thing that we can grasp, this emptiness. It's not a nothing, a no thing, this emptiness. But it's everything, undifferentiated, that gets differentiated for a moment of usefulness. And then it dissolves back into non-differentiation. Now we're just talking words now. But what I'm saying is that if we take these little steps to have aspirations, to know the principles of the Dharma, and then to make a great vow, only then can we enter into the truth of them. This gives us like a a spirit of courage, and unswerving dedication and commitment. And it brings a kind of joy that supersedes, uh, it supersedes the fears that this world gives us. Because we see something that is of a quality and a character that is so beyond anything that the ordinary teachings of this world can offer us. Sure, we're using worldly words, but we have a glimpse of something that is so far superior in quality to what we see in ordinary life, even from the best. You can just take the best people in the world. And I mean, if I read the Western story of Mother Teresa, she is the most fantastic woman in the world. But if you ask some others who had to deal with Mother Teresa and the biases that she had against Indian families wanting to adopt children, they didn't have the same view. If you look at some of the people that we truly admire, like Martin Luther King, he had extraordinary attributes. He had some other ones that were very common. I mean, his wife chose to focus on what he gave to the world, but he couldn't give to her all that she expected. No. So we have a mixture here in this world, but to know that there is there are stainless qualities that we can actually attain. And what will come with them are the corresponding capacities to save living beings. It's worth taking up. There's not a lot of talk about accomplishment, not in Buddhism, not in Christianity, some in Taoism, not in Vedanta, but in Buddhism there is. And that's why I consider it high ranking until I find something else. To me, just me, this is as good as it gets. Not because I'm in it, because I've been in all the other ones too, but the aspiration that we can set, that is not just for one, the man God, it's not for just a few, the chosen people, it's for everyone, that we all have this, excuse me, that this is our true nature. And if we can get to the place that we can hold these teachings in our heart, when they fly in the face of everything that we see, they fly in the face of how we're feeling, they're flying in the face of what we think, they're flying in spite of all of our efforts, the vexations and the passions are still arising, then we can think, dharmas are infinite. I vow to learn them all. It doesn't mean that we'll learn them all, but it means that wherever I'm falling short, there's a Dharma for that. And all I have to do is call for it. There is a Dharma for that. And I'll tell you, if you are looking, you'll run across it. That mind causes things to come into being, causes things to come together. That is the law of causality. So one should not think that one can't, with their own mind, cause something to come into the material realm. Just with your own mind. It's not like the book wasn't already printed, not like I didn't already have it, not like it wasn't already on my shelf. It's, but at the time that my mind calls it forth, now the conditions have come together. And here I have it. And when I read it, I understood it. Why? Because I made a vow to become a bodhisattva. So whatever I need to become that, it will come into my presence. So that's what you can rely upon if you make the vow. That you'll have everything that you need. So when things come, they may not look that good, but know that it's a response to your call. And then you'll hold things differently. Even the bad things, things we call bad, can be for our good and can take us, where we want to go. So I think that's all I want to talk about today, having this positive spirit or outlook of the Dharma. If anybody wants to share anything, please go right ahead.
It just occurred to me the meaning of in what is cultivated, the Dharma of cultivation. Buddha Master talks about the power of vows. You just made that clear to me just now. The power of vow. The power of the vow brings what's needed to fulfill the vow.
Mm.
We should stop worrying.
Mhm.
Just make the vow.
Yeah.
And make ourselves available, and the rest takes care of itself.
And it takes away the question, why is this happening to me? Or we could say, when an unfortunate situation comes our way, or something that vexes us, or agitates us, or propels us to passion even, we can ask the question, how do I utilize this? Well, what do I do with this? Why is this coming to me? Like what I'm supposed to do with this that's taking me to my vow. I mostly have encountered a circumstance, and then I tried to place the Dharma over it. But suppose I thought only the full revelation of the Dharma is what's coming into my life at every moment. Now, suppose I thought in that way, then I wouldn't have to wrestle with my mind to be okay with things, to accept things as they are, all that stuff we say. I wouldn't even have to, because I wouldn't be trying to accept things, because I know something is coming into my life, is taking me towards my goal of Buddhahood. And how do I work with this? How do I hold it? How do I handle it? And that's how we get into that positive outlook, that's very different than just trying to be okay with things. It takes us from imposed goodness to true goodness, and so now we're at that fine line, of moving beyond the false to what is real. And it starts to get really fine now, really thin. It's thin. And you're saying the same words, but it's different, because it's rooted in establishing or knowing the principle, developing the discipline, and entering into the vow. Thank you, Jen.
So, does the vow become the aspiration? Or does the vow support us in reaching your aspiration?
Well, I think you have to have an aspiration. And there is and you make the vow, but then you have to walk the vow, and we walk the vow not when we're thinking about things. We actually walk the vow in the moment when the power of the vow is necessary in the situation. And that's where we get a little bit lax, because we go back and we think and we think and we think, and we ponder, think how we could have done it better and how we're going to do better next time. But in the moment that it's happening, it's like I always tell a story that and I used it today with Busita. And I think Busita used it today with me, or it could have just been my imagination. But I used to, when I was working, we gather at the water fountain to, and talk would inevitably turn to gossip because that's just the state of our minds. And I made a vow to not gossip. Now, it's one thing to discuss a situation and try to get some understanding around it and to try to know the right action to take. But gossiping is when it's meant for malicious intent and it's designed to harm. Even if you say it in a way that doesn't sound like it is, the intention is it's designed to harm or discredit or tear down or something like that. And so, conversation starts to slide. There's only so much truth can be told in a short period of time. Then we get into our stuff. And so the conversation started with a person and we were all talking good. And then one person said one little thing that triggered what that person had done to someone else, and then they told theirs. And then I started thinking, yeah, and she did this to me too. And I started with mine, and right at that moment, my vow came up in my mind, and I was working on not gossiping. And I made this vow. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm gossiping now. So I cut it and went and sat back down. Now, of course, you know what happens after that. Now, you're not showing up at the water fountain. So guess who they're talking about? They're talking about you because you're the one that's not at the water fountain. But it was the vow and I was working on it. And so it was important to me at the moment, and I just said, stop. I'm sorry, I'm gossiping now. So I'm going to go sit down. And I went and I went back and I stopped hanging out not only did I go sit down, I stopped hanging out at the water fountain. And so today, this week, when some of this was working on me, and I had read the lesson that we did on starting with consciousness, and there were a couple of key points that that I felt should come forward, and I think I spoke to Soma about it, and I said 5 pages of this was too much. That was just an exercise in reading and thinking about what's in our own minds, because this is, to go a little bit deeper here, you're not going to be able to read through 5 pages and hear 5 pages and walk away with something. And so I asked someone to start it over and break that down in smaller chunks. So Busita said, well, the truth is that we could read this for a lifetime and get more out of it every time. And I had felt that we should read it again and break it down into smaller parts, because there was something that we could get now if we didn't fly all over it, So when Busita said that, then I just said, so then I got a little bit upset. Okay, well, we'll just do it your way. And that was it. I was through with it. So Busita, I know, caught my attitude, well, we'll just do it your way. And Busita did not go into a flagellation about, anything or anything. She was like, and let it go. But that's an example. Don't think I don't recognize things. I recognize things, but you have to recognize things yourself. You have to recognize what's happening yourself. I felt that I was offering something, and she was like, no, we just keep going. And I felt like I'm in charge. And so in that moment, I surrendered 50% of my in chargeness. So I surrendered being in charge, but I kept the attitude of I'm in charge, And I'm just telling you how to look and know and how to work with your mind. That's the whole thing. And that's why you have to be in the company of people who are likewise practicing. You don't go and hang with people who are not practicing until you have mastered it. Then you can go and be anywhere. But up until that time, you need to hang with like-minded people because you have the opportunity to practice and to develop. And so, but normally if there's something, then Busita would come back and, and say, I'm sorry if I made you feel, or whatever. But she didn't have to say that. Even if the thought came up, I don't know if it did or not, but, or she'd be bombed out, like, just bombed out. And I'm like, yeah, got to get bombed out over that because we disagree. We can disagree and yet not be disagreeable, But how do you do that? That is a behavioral thing. It's an action, And so we have to start with our actions, and somebody has to be forbearing and until our actions become perfected. So don't worry when things happen. Okay? Don't worry when there's disagreements. Don't worry when there's blowouts. Don't worry when there's differences of opinion. Just take one step towards the equality, and it will all happen for us in the proper timing, But just remember that all of this Dharma is not for hearing good things and wishing it and wanting to help it, but it's about correcting our behavior. Yeah. Y'all don't have to tell all y'all stuff. Like we give up our stuff. We ain't got no stuff, so.
I'd just like to say how much I gained from your discussion of compassion. I try to live by this saying that another teacher taught me once, was be kinder than necessary because everybody's fighting some kind of battle. But I like the word be compassionate instead of be kinder. Kinder is something I kind of have to do, but being compassionate is something about opening my heart to my being and to what I'm responding, how my response is. It just opened my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. We done? Okay, somebody else. Suka?
In our hearts, become aware at this time of those that you know that are deeply suffering, those you personally know, those you know about through the news, through the media, through the internet, and take a moment to offer them your merit silently. and offering to all beings in all six worlds, all sentient beings. May they have wisdom, increase their wisdom, their patience, their kindness. And may we all abide in emptiness, free of attachment.
Right now, my heart is particularly, drawn towards murderers, haters, people who are really harming people. Um, we always have a heart towards the victim. you know. But to really feel the pain of people who can commit atrocities against others, the depth of that pain, it's got to be unbearable. I was thinking about pedophiles. I read a story the other day and how like that uber wealthy, they devolve into these degenerate behaviors and debauchery because they've conquered the world. They have everything, and their passions have nowhere else to go. And it starts to move in these unseemly spaces. And then how they even like children, the younger, the better. And I read a story about a guy that he was on a killing spree, and he seemed like such a monster. But actually, these were against people who were part of a sex ring, and they had kidnapped and sold his 4-year-old daughter, and she got killed. I mean, they abused her to death, and if you didn't know his story, you would think he was just, you know, just a brutal and deranged person. But the depth of his pain that made him even less than human himself. But he was only killing those that were part of the ring. And how it took somebody coming into his life to humanize him until he could let go. And he was able to let go of his anger. But it took a bodhisattva coming into his life. And so if we devote all of our attention in a one-sided way, then the world will not get better. But we have to be able to penetrate the hell realm. Thank you.